the fluorescent lights of the gas station flickered overhead as Marcus grabbed his coffee, barely registering the world around him. He'd perfected the art of moving through life without really seeing it. Head down, earbuds in, shin problems locked away where they belonged. 3 months since the divorce papers arrived. 2 months since he'd lost his job. 1 month since he'd stopped returning his mother's calls. The numbers added up to a man who'd learned that caring too much only led to bleeding out slowly. He pushed through the glass doors into the parking lot, where November rain had turned everything gray and slick. That's when he heard it, a small, choked sound that didn't quite qualify. As crying but held all the weight of a world collapsing, Marcus told himself to keep walking. He had a job interview in Cincinnati, a full tank of gas, and absolutely no bandwidth left for other people's problems. But then he saw them. A woman sat on the curb near the air pump, her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking with the kind of sobs that come from somewhere deep and broken. Next to her stood a boy, maybe 7 or 8, wearing a too-thin jacket and sneakers with holes along the sides. The kid's hand rested on his mother's shoulder, his own face twisted with an expression no child should have to wear, the look of someone trying to hold together, the only world he'd ever known. Marcus made it 3 steps, toward his car before the boy's voice cut through the rain. "Excuse me, mister?" He stopped. Against every instinct screaming at him to keep moving, he stopped. The kid's eyes were red-rimmed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Please don't leave my mom." 5 words. That's all it took to crack the carefully constructed armor Marcus had spent months building. He looked at the boy, really looked at him, and saw something he recognized. Desperation mixed with a fragile kind of hope. The same expression he'd worn as a kid when his own father walked out for good. "I'm okay, baby," the woman managed, though her voice betrayed the lie. This man needs to go. Marcus should have agreed, should have offered some hollow condolence and continued on his way. Instead, he found himself walking closer, his coffee growing cold in his hand. "Car trouble?" he asked, already knowing the answer. The woman finally looked up. Her face was young, maybe 30, but exhaustion had carved lines that added years. "It's fine. We're fine." "We don't need—" Her voice broke. "We're fine." The boy's grip tightened on his mother's shoulder. "Our car stopped working. Mom says we can't afford to fix it and we're supposed to be at Grandma's house because she's sick and Mom's crying because we're stuck. And I don't know what to do." The words tumbled out in a rush, the way truth does when it's been bottled up too long. The woman pulled her son close, fresh tears streaming down her face, tears of embarrassment now, mixing with everything else. "Tyler, hush," she whispered. "We don't ask strangers for help." But Marcus was already crouching down, looking under the hood of their ancient Honda Civic, which sat listing to one side near the vacuum station. He didn't know much about cars, but he knew desperation when he saw it. He knew what it looked like when someone was hanging on by their fingernails, one bad break away from free fall. "How far's your mom's place?" he asked. The woman wiped her face with shaking hands. "We're going to Dayton. It's 2 hours from here. Look, I don't need charity. I just need a minute to figure this out." 2 hours to Dayton. Marcus was headed to Cincinnati. Dayton was directly on the way. He thought about his interview, scheduled for tomorrow morning. He thought about his empty apartment and emptier bank account. He thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Then he looked at Tyler, still standing guard over his mother like a pint-sized sentinel, and remembered being that kid, remembered what it felt like to watch your parent crumble, and have absolutely no power to stop it. "I'm driving to Cincinnati," Marcus heard himself say. "Dayton's on the way. Let me give you a ride." The woman's head snapped up. "What? No, absolutely not. I don't even know you. Name's Marcus Hayes. I'm 34. Recently divorced, currently unemployed, and about 6 different kinds of a mess." He surprised himself with the honesty. "But I've got a reliable car, a full tank of gas, and I know what it's like when the world decides to kick you while you're down." She stared at him, searching his face for ulterior motives, for danger, for any of the 1,000 reasons to say no. Marcus understood. He'd be suspicious, too. Hell, he was suspicious of his own motives. "Please, Mom," Tyler whispered. "Grandma needs us." Something shifted in the woman's expression. Marcus watched her run through calculations. He understood, too. Well, pride versus necessity. Fear versus hope. The risk of trusting a stranger versus the certainty of being stuck. "Sarah," she finally said. "My name's Sarah Mitchell." 20 minutes later, they were on I-70, rain drumming against the windshield while Tyler dozed in the back seat. Finally succumbing to exhaustion, Sarah sat rigid in the passenger seat. Her purse clutched tight on her lap, eyes fixed straight ahead. "He's been so brave," she said quietly. "His grandma practically raised him while I worked double shifts. 6 months ago, she had a stroke. Last week, the doctors said it might be her last Thanksgiving." Her voice cracked. "I was supposed to pick up extra hours this month to pay for the car repairs. Instead, they cut my shifts at the diner. I thought if we could just make it to Dayton, I could figure something out there. But the car gave up 5 miles from this exit." Marcus kept his eyes on the road. "What happened to Tyler's dad?" "Never been in the picture. Signed away his rights before Tyler was born," she laughed. But there was no humor in it. "Sometimes I wonder if Tyler would be better off if I'd just given him up too. Let him have a real family, not just a mom who can barely keep the lights on. Don't." The word came out sharper than Marcus intended. "Don't do that to yourself." Sarah turned to look at him. "You sound like you know something about it." He did, more than he wanted to admit. "My dad left when I was 9. Walked out one day and never came back. My mom worked 3 jobs trying to hold things together. I spent most of my childhood angry at her for struggling instead of being grateful that she stayed." He swallowed hard. "She died last year. I never told her how much it mattered that she didn't give up, that she kept fighting even when everything was falling apart." The confession hung in the air between them. Marcus hadn't told anyone that, hadn't even fully admitted it to himself, until the words left his mouth. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered. "Yeah, me too." He glanced in the rearview mirror at Tyler's sleeping form. "That kid back there? He doesn't see your struggles. He sees his hero. Trust me on that." They drove in silence for a while. The kind of quiet that felt companionable rather than awkward. Strange, Marcus thought. How sometimes it's easier to be honest with strangers than with the people who know you best. "Why'd you stop?" Sarah asked suddenly. "Really?" "You could have kept walking." "Most people would have." Marcus considered the question. 3 months ago, I would have. I'd convinced myself that not caring was the same as not hurting. That if I just kept my head down and my heart locked up, I'd be safe." He paused. "But your son asked me not to leave. And I guess I'm tired of walking away from things, from people, from moments that might actually matter." Sarah's laugh was wet with tears she didn't bother hiding. "You picked a hell of a moment to stop running." "Didn't I, though?" They reached Dayton as the sun broke through the clouds, painting everything gold. Tyler woke up as they pulled into the parking lot of Pleasant Valley Nursing Home, his face lighting up with the kind of pure joy only kids can manage. "We made it," he shouted. "Grandma's gonna be so happy." Sarah's hands trembled as she unbuckled her seatbelt. "I don't know how to thank you. I don't even know how to start." Marcus reached into his wallet and pulled out 320s, money he couldn't really afford, to part with but somehow couldn't keep. "For cab fare, for whatever you need. I can't." "Yeah, you can. Pay it forward someday when you're back on your feet," he scribbled, his number on a gas receipt. "And if you need a ride back, call me. Interview's not till tomorrow morning. I've got time." Tyler threw his arms around Marcus's waist before anyone could stop him. "Thank you for not leaving my mom," he mumbled into Marcus's jacket. Marcus's throat tightened. He rested a hand on the boy's head, feeling something crack open in his chest, something that had been frozen, solid for months. "Thank you for asking me to stay." He watched them walk into the nursing home, Sarah's arm around Tyler's shoulders, both of them walking a little taller now. Marcus sat in his car for a long moment, surprised to find his own cheeks wet. His phone buzzed. A text from his mom. "Haven't heard from you in weeks. I love you. Please call." Marcus stared at the message, then hit dial. "Mom, hey, I'm sorry I've been gone. I'm on my way to an interview, but I wanted to tell you something." He took a breath. "Thank you. For staying, for everything." His mother's sob of relief was answer enough. As Marcus pulled back onto the highway, Cincinnati ahead and the weight of months finally lifting, he understood something fundamental. Sometimes the moments that save us aren't the ones we plan for. Sometimes they're just a rainy gas station, a desperate kid, and the choice to stop walking away. Sometimes kindness isn't about having enough to give. It's about giving anyway, especially when you feel emptiest, because that's when we remember what it means to be human. That's when we find our way back to ourselves.